Take care. Okay, our next speaker is Jason, and he's going to talk about crypto coin economy. In other words, what makes prices go up, go down? What can we do as a community to make the price go up, because that's what everybody wants to see. And maybe he's got some exciting announcements too.
Thank you, Chris.
Can you also explain the fundamentals of market making?
Okay, sure. Well, good morning, or rather, good afternoon. I'll just take a seat up here. Am I going to be the only one sitting up here? Okay. How's everyone doing in Vancouver? Great. So, okay. So, before we begin, one question. Show me a raise of hands. How many of you here currently have cryptocurrency of any kind? Does everyone have? Oh, okay. All right, great. Most people do. So we have a basic understanding of how cryptocurrency, blockchain, and sort of these things, how they work. So the topic that we're going to be discussing today is, it can be a pretty open-ended, but I figure let's just run a little overview. For me, at Binary Financial, we're mainly a OTC trading firm. So we help facilitate, high net worth individuals, institutions to obtain large block trades of Bitcoin. So if you're looking at, obtaining our minimums like $1 million, or anything above from that to, 50, 100 billions, there's very few parties in the world that can facilitate these kind of transactions, because Bitcoin is a scarce resource. It's finite. It's difficult to obtain. So obtaining larger sums of these things do take more specialized work. And while being at Binary, what I mainly focus on is investments. So investing into projects that are bringing new infrastructures, that are bringing new applications, but the key is to really look for people that are creating amazing and future applications and protocols and projects that we should see that bring value to this ecosystem. So currently in the state of the market, everyone probably saw the amazing run up in January. Everything was going crazy. Bitcoin was sitting at $20,000. Ethereum, everything was just phenomenal. So what happened in the last 6 months? Well, first of all, Bitcoin is down to, I think, 5,800 last time I checked. So it went down quite a bit. And most of the other tokens or cryptocurrency have basically went down anywhere from 90% to 60%. In fact, just yesterday, I think it was like a couple of weeks ago, I was in Abu Dhabi, and a local friend, he was telling me about, he's like, I'm new to investing in cryptocurrencies, and I was looking at this project. It's called Peepcoin. It's really, really interesting. I put a lot of Bitcoins in it, and it's done very, very well. So he's telling me about how much money he's made in it. And I'm like, oh, great. It just reminds me of 2013, everyone's investing in these new altcoins that are just coming out. It's a crazy market. And so yesterday, I just happened to check on CoinMarketCap. The market cap went down by 95%. It went down to 1 Satoshi. So it's like, so these things, what's happening right now is we know there are huge institutional interests that are coming into the cryptocurrency market. We're seeing the government agency, the regulatory agencies that are paying a lot of attention to this new technology and this new market that it is creating. And we're also seeing sort of the hope and the future of securitized tokens, where imagine Apple stock, Google stock, your bonds, your mortgage-backed securities, all these things could potentially be trading on the blockchain utilizing this technology. But what most people fail to see is that the cryptocurrency market that some of us are sort of used to and sort of accustomed to, that market, in my opinion, is what was dying in the past 6 months. Not because of the lack of innovation, but because that market has been filled with, if you're looking at different classes of currently the digital assets that are available, you got Bitcoin, Litecoin, Monero. You have these cryptocurrencies, what I call them cryptocurrencies, and these are things that basically that were not raised funds through an ICO or for investors, crowdfunded. They were basically projects and community efforts that people believe in the vision, like for Monero, for example, people wanted to create something to alternative of Bitcoin, just providing different use cases, different applications, and different utilities. So these cryptocurrencies have done, I would say, fairly well in amidst all this regulatory scrutiny, because at least the U.S. government is now recognizing Bitcoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, I believe one more, but that they're being legitimatized as recognized cryptocurrencies. But on the other hand, because most new people are confused and it's really a new industry, you have these things where like ERC20 tokens, which are created on top of Ethereum, and they're really just, how do you say this? It's really just people utilizing this technology to create perceived value. And so these days, when you go, what I heard right now in the cryptocurrency space, that hedge funds, crypto hedge funds, are spending huge amount of money throwing parties and dinners to try to get founders to get them early allocation. Just so all these guys are, because in the early allocation in ICO, if you know how it works, there's ICO, and then there's pre-ICO, and then there's the pre-ICO, then there's the family and friends, and there's so basically everybody's trying to get to the front of the line, so they can get it for as the best deal and the cheapest deal as possible. And you're just talking about who is getting the first coin, right? Who are the ones getting the first distribution? So in light of that, but the problem is everyone doesn't realize, it's I don't know if it was Warren Buffett or someone said, but it's a good point where you rather buy something great at a great price than buy something terrible at a cheap price. So most of these people are fighting for projects and allocations for tokens that once go on the market, because there are so many now, and exchanges are the bottleneck. So if you look at centralized exchanges are basically places like Binance, I don't know, some of the other ones, Bitfinex. These are places where people can go on, like a stock brokerage. So you can go to TD Ameritrade or Charles Schwab or Scottrade. You sign up for an account, and you can begin purchase stocks and things like that, and they hold it for you, and you're trading. So essentially, that's what exchange does. So the problem is, most of these tokens, unless you are well known or you sort of have this traction, the liquidity, and that was point Christina was talking about market making. So there's two parts of actually creating the product side of things, and then the financial side. So the game is really simple. It comes down to one thing. In this market, it's one thing: relationships. Who do you know? Right? It's more important than what you know. It's who do you know. So if you're a project, you're a founder, you create a token. It doesn't matter if your project has anything of actual product or anything. It's just the fact that you have a great white paper, you got a great team, you know certain people, they get you on the market. I mean, most of these so-called the liquidity and the value that you're seeing being created in the market, it's all artificially generated, especially in China. There's entire token markets, ICO markets in China that are totally oblivious to us out here outside of China. It's insane. These projects are raising tens of millions of dollars, and they trade exclusively inside a market, but the market's so big they never even get to outside investors. So it's actually I think that's why most of the government are actually afraid, because if you look in China, 1.7, 1.4 billion people, let's just say 10% of people have internet access. You're talking about 50 million people, right? 50 million people participating in a project. If something goes wrong with it, that's 50 million pissed off people. Like in the US, you got people pissed off, they're gonna call the SEC, next thing you know, you're gonna have subpoenas and the feds all over you. But in China, it's it can cause social problems. Imagine 50 million people all of a sudden started uprising because everyone lost, $10 in a token that was backed by the government. Right. So governments really want to control that, and but we do see from the other side that this ICO, the ability to raise funds from people, kind of like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, it's a really phenomenal model. But now what we're seeing in the market is that the really solid projects, they're no longer going after the retail investors. They're going after, strategic investors. What's considered strategic? Basically, besides money, what else can you bring to the table? And what does everyone want? What does all the founders want? Well, number one, they want exchanges. They want people who have influence so that they can influence other people. So you're targeting the more upper echelon in the industry. And so what happens, so they're the ones beginning to get the allocation. They're getting the stuff at like 90% discount or even 99% discount. And then they take it to the first tranche of investors, right here. We're selling you this at 50% discount. Wow. But the cost of creating these tokens, first of all, you have to understand, like just even in retail business, you create a product, a bag or computer, for example. There's a fixed cost. But once you put it into production and you're putting into retail, the channel, there's a certain profit. But in the virtual space, in this technology, the cost to create those tokens. So this is why when most of the projects, every day I'm probably seeing tons of pitches, ICOs, everyone's trying to throw you a project, but they don't realize what, besides of discounts, so everyone's saying, well, I'm going to give you 80% discount on my token. But 80% discount is relative, because if it costs you, a penny to create and you're selling to me at 10 cents, that's not really 80% discount. So one of the things you really want to look at is how do you define value? How do you evaluate a company or a project? And so simple, one of the metrics that I look for is, number one, what is the starting point of this project? How much money do you guys start with to bootstrap? Look, like in Silicon Valley, you got Google. Like, how much did they start with? Apple. All these amazing companies started with very small amount of money. But nowadays, you're seeing projects. I think EOS recently is just in the crossfires. They have a lot of problems. They're talking about rewriting their governance, their constitution. Price is just going crazy. They raised $4 billion, I think. $4 billion. And they're probably the first company in history to raise $4 billion without even a product when they did that. So if you think about traditionally, it's actually, and you got Telegram. Telegram recently, I think these multi-billion-dollar raises, because when I remember seeing Tezos, seeing some of these companies raising 100 and 300 million, I thought that was already ridiculous. Like, this is the end. But when you start seeing companies like Telegram, okay, they have what, 250 million, 300 million users, but at I think they raised about either 2+ billion. But the valuation of the entire network based on their raise was $180 billion. 180 billion. We're not even talking about M's anymore. We're talking about billions. So how is this sustainable? And recently I was just in, I think I was in Dubai. This one project founder, Tata2. So if you Google Tata2, Lady Bacardi invested $100 million personally. They raised $500 million for an app that has 0 users. So I was just kind of grilling them about the questions, and there were a bunch of investors. In the end, everyone decided that it probably wasn't a good idea to get in, because how do you sustain $1 billion market cap with no product, no users? What is your user acquisition strategy? They said, oh, we're going to take half of our raise, which is $250 million, to go acquire customers. So that's essentially their goal. And they're talking about, so everyone's going to find ways. And sometimes I think for projects, it's actually a good idea not to overfund the project, because when you overfund. Basically, when you hand people a ton of money, they're going to lose incentive to build anything. They're going to lose motivation. I mean, look at Augur. Has anyone heard of Augur in here? Okay. Does anyone use Augur on a day-to-day basis? What is Augur's market cap right now? 38 million, 40, 50. At one point, it was like a couple hundred million. What does that number represent? Like for me, value comes from utilization, so why do Bitcoin? Why do these things have value? Because people use it. Simple. And we go to conferences and people talk about decentralized applications, dApps, and all these things. But the reality is, how many people in this room right now use an application that runs on a blockchain on a day-to-day basis? I do. Flash wallet. I use it literally every single day. So when you begin to think about that, all these other applications, I mean, they're all building promises, but there's no real use case. So the market right now is sitting on a lot of froth. And since January, we hit a peak of 800 billion, but let's remember, it wasn't long ago, remember Christina, when we were in Puerto Rico? What was the market cap of Ethereum? What was the price of Ethereum? It was like $4, $8. It's $8. Today, it still sits at 500. Hit a peak of 1,300. That was like not long ago. Dash. Also, all these cryptocurrency have just, the valuation have just, run up. Now, they definitely have corrected. And I think what's next in the token markets is, okay, you have this, the utility tokens, all these projects, everyone's trying to avoid regulatory scrutiny because it's expensive, because it's problematic, because it's the very reason why cryptocurrency was invented in the first place, so that people didn't have to deal with these arcane and expensive regulations. But now we're taking it back. So how that plays out, we don't know, right? The SEC supposedly is going to make some decisions coming in the fall that should bring more clarity to the market, but we know for sure that a regulated market is forming. Institutions are not going to trade in, these kind of, they're only going to touch regulated things. So what's going to develop? Number one, if you recently heard Binance just got set up in a country called, was it Uganda? Uganda, Africa, Uganda. This is what happens when you piss off the US government. You can only go to places like Uganda because you can't get service elsewhere. The Japanese are angry. So regulators are going to shut out these markets, and they will kind of just exist on the side. They will still exist, but there's these regulated markets, New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, they're all creating cryptocurrency exchanges. They're all going to trade. They're basically, they see where the money is. Why are, what was it just recently acquired? Like Goldman is buying exchange. They're all trying to come in, but they're not going to play the game that we know and play. They're going to create their own market and dominate. This is why, if you look coincidentally, January was the peak of the cryptocurrency, sort of the hype. Everything was just all-time high. What happened? What was the important event that happened around that time? December, end of December. Futures. The future market. Cash settled futures. Okay? So really if you think about what is cash settled futures, it is a financial instrument controlled by the banks and inside a regulatory framework, inside a specific market that they dominate. And fiat money, we all know, they can print as much as they want. So you have unlimited resources to manipulate a price on a controlled market. So what do you think is going to happen when you say it's Bitcoin future? But it's not really Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin? We know what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is a string of keys on a public ledger. It's on a network. This stuff is not Bitcoin, but they make it seem like Bitcoin because that's the market perception. But people don't know better. They think, oh, Bitcoin futures, this is going to be amazing because it allows institutional investors to come in and get exposure to Bitcoin. No, you're not getting exposure to Bitcoin. It's not Bitcoin. So what is happening? They are creating their own market. And recently, you probably hear, I don't know if you guys heard, but from what I see, everybody's trying to do OTC. People are throwing around, I mean, we get people, in the past 6 months especially, you get people, oh, we have a seller who is looking to sell half 500,000 Bitcoins, 100,000 Bitcoins. Now, we know the largest holders of Bitcoins. We trade with the largest traders of Bitcoins. And the largest trades of 1,000 to 2,000 Bitcoins for the biggest traders in the world is like big. Because not because the money isn't there, because to understand what 500,000 Bitcoin is, that's half of Satoshi's coins that hasn't even moved. And he's the only person in the world that probably has 1,000,000 Bitcoins. Like everyone else, maybe 100,000. So even the biggest holders, it's taken a long time to accumulate that kind of position. I think it's a lot of BS that people are throwing around. These big, because I see a lot of. I mean, we deal with. I can't talk about the actual client names, but these are people who are looking to move significant. I mean, we're not just talking about chump change, significant money into this market. But they all begin to realize the problem. The problem isn't about why are they all eager to buy Bitcoin, because they're, for the first time ever, they're beginning to move money like they never moved before. Like before, if you're just talking about moving, let's just say $100 million from bank A to bank B. To the bank, it doesn't matter because, that's fine. You're moving within the system. But when you move 100 million and you want to move into something called cryptocurrency, which is outside of their control, the problem begins to rise. And what you're really seeing is, so one good indication, if you know Tether USD, Tether recently just issued $250 million more in new coin issuance. So every time new money is coming in, so Bitfinex, essentially, when people deposit money into Bitfinex, they can create new tokens. So that's a good indication of new money demand coming into the market. That's just one part of it. But the biggest problem for these investors or people who are panicking to looking to get in is because they're realizing the problem. They all see the problem. What is the problem? Is that there's nowhere to go. As in, cryptocurrency is very volatile and scary, but where they're currently parked at is even more scary. So let's take an example. Let's stay back a few months ago. Saudi Arabia. There was this very, very wealthy prince who was a billionaire. And guess what? Overnight, boom, asset frozen. Boom, everything taken. Had nothing. That sent a huge shockwave down the entire MENA region. I mean, forget that you're a prince. I mean, people are like, well, that guy was a prince, and everybody knows him, and he just got made an example. I mean, he just got his money taken, just thrown into jail. What is going to happen to us? What do we do? So they're all panicking and trying to find a way to get money into cryptocurrency. It's similar to how in China, the corrupt officials are trying to get as much money out as possible because the money sitting inside China isn't worth anything to them. Right? Like money sitting inside China is like money that could be taken away anytime. But money sitting outside of China in the US, New Zealand, Australia, sitting in real estate or whatever kind of assets is real money to them, is real. So these people are beginning to realize that whatever they have in the system isn't really real or as secure as they thought it was. And they all want to come in. So you have this huge struggle of money trying to come in. But there's no real sellers. So what is going to happen to the market price? They're going to continue to suppress it until it gets to the point where all the weak hands get shaken out and people are going to give up. But most of the solid holders are not selling. This is why continuously you see, and eventually it's going to hit to a point where the price suppression, they cannot suppress the price anymore. I mean, last time it happened, it was for about 2 years, but that was much less participants and Bitcoin was much lower price. But I don't know how long they can suppress the price. Maybe they can suppress it for a long time, but I think there will be other things that will occur that push the bubble, because we're currently in this sort of struggle jam that we know the institutional investors want to purchase crypto. They want exposure to this stuff because they know that it is the future. Everybody's in it, so there's a lot of FOMO. But at the same time, they know that if they sort of give in and just go onto the market and purchase, I mean, we get a lot of purchase orders, but no one's really, when it comes down to it, they all want to, it's like nobody really knows how to do it. No one really knows how to do these OTC trades. Because if you think about it, in the market, behind every buyer, there's a seller. Where are the sellers?
So what I don't understand is why, if you have this pressure to buy, in theory, the price should be higher, not lower, right?
So Christina's question was, in theory, you have so much demand from the market. Why is the price not going up? Because traditionally, how the institutional investors and the banks, how they think and play the game is buy low and sell high. So they're in the buy low stage right now. And they'll do whatever it takes to take the price low so that you give up your coins. You're like, oh, Bitcoin's dead.
Right. So
Retail investors are going to be like, you know what? This is too much for me. They were right. Bitcoin is not safe. I'm going to sell my Bitcoins. Yeah, it's like taking candy from a baby and telling him that candy is poison. Yes, sir.
So I agree with the concept that there's people that have high demand, then the macroeconomics, the price is going to go up. So since you're saying that the institutions are trying to buy low and suppress the price, if there's the high demand, what mechanisms are they using to suppress the price?
So some of the things that they can do is control, because you can control very strategic aspects of this industry. So for example, people. So people can say things, people can do things. You can tweak the dials. You can spread FUD. I mean, there's so many things that you can do to drive the price down, because this market is sentimentally driven. So most people are going to react on the news. If they see something bad, what is going to happen to the price? It's going to go down. So basically, it's a lot of their ability to persuade and to influence very strategic parts to drive the price down. Yes, sir.
Well, I'd like to add a little bit.
Yes.
As we know, gold and silver has been down for 10 years now. Okay,
Yes.
that's exactly what people can do. You know, the Lehman Brothers and so on, they've been just U.S. government. They've been just keep selling, keep it tight, keep it low. So investors are not selling it back out to the market, but there are productions every year coming out of the mines and so on. So in that sense, you know, they're getting paid back at low prices from shorting them from going higher. So everything else has gone up, like metal-wise and so on. Gold and silver are the two main, basically end losers. So that's the scary part actually for bitcoins and so on. They can last for a couple more years, or they can last for another 6 months and then let it go. We don't know exactly which way that they can hold
Yeah.
the sellers, and they're not really getting a buyer because there is no, with all this new created, it doesn't worth the same amount as Bitcoin is. Okay, so until the Bitcoin can come back up, then we're all kind of stuck.
Yeah.
So I'll speak louder. So, what do you think? It seems like something has to give here, right? Like you
No,
can
I'm
have
okay.
futures, and then we heard about Ethereum maybe having futures, that kind of thing. So sorry. Jeez. What about the concept of like Bitcoin being uncoupled from the other coins? Like, is that a possible thing that could happen in the future, do you think? Well, what I mean is like all other coins are linked to Bitcoin, right? To determine their value. So would it happen at some point that this stuff would be uncoupled from Bitcoin, so everything is not tied to Bitcoin necessarily?
So, okay, to sort of continue that question, but I'll go something a little bit different from that angle, from the top. You're basically saying that because Bitcoin is sort of like this, the the anchor to all of this entire market. So here's an interesting thing that we all know about Genesis block. How many people here know what Genesis block of Bitcoin is?
It's the first block,
Okay,
right?
good. The first block. So did you know, have anyone ever, because I've done some research into sort of the early histories of that part, and I found some interesting points, and it may not mean anything significant, but I always thought it was interesting to share. So we know that the Bitcoin blockchain is timestamped. There's a timestamp server on every single transaction, every single block, and we all can all agree here that that time is verifiably, provably correct with Satoshi's, his first message in a Genesis block that January 3rd, 2009, Chancellor on the brink of first bailout for the banks. So we know that the blockchain, the block 0 occurred in January 3rd, 2009. But if you look at the timestamp from block 0 to block 1, there was a time gap because I'm recently mining a new cryptocurrency. So I'm kind of like going back in the days of mining on a CPU and doing all that. But what I began to realize that there was this, most people don't realize, there was almost a week, 6 days from the time that he began running the Satoshi client to the point where he generated the second block, which is block 1. So in reality, there's block 0 is actually block 1, but why was it called block 0 and not block 1? Block 1 occurred 7 days after. Block 2 occurred a few minutes. So the timeline for the first 20,000 blocks, you can go into Bitcoin blockchain, look right now. From block 1 to block 20,000, all of the Bitcoins, the UTXOs, unspent outputs are still there intact, meaning no one has touched it since creation. 20,001, the block was spent. So we know for sure that block 1 to block 20,000, 50 Bitcoins per block being produced at that time is 1 million Bitcoins. Plus the first original 50, that's 1,000,050. Now here's another interesting point. That's number 1. Those were never spent. They're still there. No, they're unspent outputs. They're green, unspent, meaning they can be spent, but no one has touched it. Because when you first generate, like right now when you receive Bitcoins, it's kind of like if you think individual Bitcoin Genesis as a sort of a beginning point, and every subsequent transaction, it's just a subset of inputs and outputs. Inputs in a Bitcoin transaction takes previously unspent outputs, creates input, and then creates outputs by basically saying pay to Christina 1 Bitcoin, the rest of the change of that 3 goes back to another address, which is me. So you're constantly doing this division and breaking down of the individual Bitcoins. But each Bitcoin sort of come out as a big block. Think of it like a big block of gold. But over time, people begin to chip away, making transactions. It becomes smaller and smaller. But all of the pieces can be traced back to the original production. Every single bit. It doesn't matter how small you divisible it down to. So this is what's amazing about this technology, is that everything can be traced back to the origin. So we know for certain that those coins did not move. But here's another interesting thing. The hash, a hash is basically, simply put, a mathematic function that algorithm, it's just simple layman math, right? It's a mathematically generated string of numbers. The hash for block 0 was 2 digits more than every, so it means that block 0 and block 1, it was because Bitcoin didn't exist before block 0. So another interesting point is that block 0 have a private key. There's a Genesis key. But block 0's, basically Bitcoin's Genesis transaction does not exist anywhere in the global ledger. Meaning every computer system running Bitcoin right now, whether it's wallets or anything, the nodes, none of these things recognize block 0 as a valid transaction. What does that mean? It means if theoretically today, Satoshi were to take Genesis key, push a transaction signed from Genesis key, sending that Bitcoin from the Genesis address into the Bitcoin system, what would happen? Every single Bitcoin system, Bitcoin would instantly hard fork. And it would not be a hard fork like Bitcoin Cash. Because what is the dilemma? Number one, every system is going to tell you, what is this? We don't recognize this. This is not Bitcoin. Weird. But at the same time, every human person with a brain is going to be like, that's from the Genesis block. That's Satoshi's coins. What do? Do you follow Satoshi's coins, recognizing his transaction, thereby invalidating every single Bitcoin rules out there? Or do you reject Satoshi? Like, what happens then? And it's more of a scientific little possibility there, but no one knows because no one can prove that Satoshi either dead or alive. But apparently he was in New York. That's what I heard. Apparently. So I think it's I heard things about it, but it's better not to say it. But it's like there's possibilities. If I see anything that could potentially break this institution, this banking grasp, what that gentleman was saying, it would be like Satoshi coming back and forking Bitcoin, invalidating all of this stuff. That would be Black Swan event. I think it'd be pretty cool. But that's just because I watched too much Mr. Robot, right?
But okay, so if say that doesn't happen and we're stuck in the situation we're in now, right? And the other coins are not uncoupled from Bitcoin. So what do we all think is going to be the future of progression of what's going on now? Is Bitcoin going to go long at some point?
No, I think there are going to be evolutions of this technology. Saying Bitcoin is going to be, it's kind of hard to say at this point what Bitcoin is going to be like in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. But one thing we know for sure that if this technology is solid and Bitcoin just continue to do what it does well, and no one tries to change it, Lightning Network. How many people here know what Lightning Network is? Okay, so simply put, Lightning Network is a layer 2 scaling solution that people want to build on top, well, people built on top of Bitcoin, and actually talks about this originated a few years ago, before around the time before Flash was created. So people are talking about, okay, Bitcoin is going to run into this transaction problem. It cannot process that many transactions a second. The fees are going to go up too high. We need to create another solution on top. But 4 years later, today, we see that the reality is, Lightning Network is not going to be the solution that takes Bitcoin to where it needs to be, because it's just unfathomable. It's not going to work. And there are a lot of videos and discussions about why people think it can or cannot. But what we know for sure is what works. So I think actually that's a really good marketing angle for Flash, Chris. Flash versus Lightning Network. So at the end of the day, I think it doesn't matter if you use Bitcoin or Litecoin or anything to transmit value over the internet, as long as it works and people agree it works, right? Like, do you care that if you really need to send a message to someone, do you care if you're using an Android, iOS, it doesn't matter what phone you use. You just want to get the job done. So, and I think right now, cryptocurrency is very exciting. Blockchain technology is very exciting. And that's because the world just heard about it. Most people are just beginning to understand and begin to learn about this amazing technology. So it's very exciting and new. But I think in 5 years, no one's really going to care. People just want to use something that works. So we can sit here, and for Flash, we can sit here to try to, fight against all these people who are trying to do these kind of big vision things. But I think where we can create a niche is really unique. And this is why for me, and one of the other things for me is that where I see the market going and how at Binary, how we see the market, how we plan our future, the one thing that made us very successful is we always done something that no one else is doing. So while we done the OTC market when no one else is looking at OTC, but now everyone's looking at OTC, we're actually getting away from that. We're doing the next things, and those will be the things that everyone else will be doing in the next few years. So I think it's very important to always stay very innovative and think outside of the box in this market, because at the end of the day, this is technology, and technology can create infinite possibilities as much as you want to imagine. If you look at the early days of the internet, the amazing companies came not just because people had the technology. It's because people had great visions, how to utilize that technology to create value. That's the key. So at the fundamental end of the day, it's not about the price. It's not about all this. None of this stuff matters. It's about the people. So we invest in people foremost. We don't just invest in projects just because they got a big name attached to it. We don't do that. We invest in people. So to bring up one of the since we're talking about token and markets, where I think, and then yesterday I just got off a call with some investors in New York, two brothers. Long story short, father passed away, left them $15 billion, 15 billion. So they're interested in deploying a couple $100 million to this market because they see the technology. So they ask, where's the opportunity? What do we do? So I tell them, exchange coins. How many people here heard of Binance? Okay, so Binance launched a coin called BNB, Binance Coin. Binance Coin raised about $10 million. They were selling for about 10 cents. Today it's around 15 in less than 8 months. $15. Hit a peak of 23. So exchange coins, what we noticed in the past 6 months, everything's just been going down. But BNB was the only thing that sustained and actually went up in Satoshi terms. Because Bitcoin went down. So, but Satoshi price went up because dollar price went up, because demand went up. It doesn't matter if people are dumping, buying or selling, they still need the coin. So there was utility, intrinsic utility in that token. So I would say if any of you are looking at investing in cryptocurrencies, an exchange coin, a real good exchange coin is definitely the direction to go. There was one I just saw, it was called F coin. That was created by the CTO of Huobi. I think it was, I forgot his name, but we're actually just seeing he created his own exchange. It's not even on CoinMarketCap. And by the way, guys, CoinMarketCap is for retail investor. It means the data that you're seeing there, we know, like the CoinMarketCap guys, they created this sort of influence over retail investors about the price and about the market. But CoinMarketCap is not everything, just FYI. So tend to look a little deeper than just CoinMarketCap for your information. But Fcoin traded in 24 hours, how much was it? $15 billion. 15 billion. It's not even on CoinMarketCap. And they have their own exchange coin. So there are a lot of these things that are happening outside of a specific framework. So you always want to look outside of the box. You want to think outside of the box so you can find opportunities outside of the box. Because if you stay within this box, you're going to be fighting against, the guys who's been playing this game much longer than you and I have. And you're not going to win. That's simple. But the world's a big place, and I think there's a lot of possibilities and opportunities out there. You just have to look and find them. And so for us, we play in we deal with the regulator markets, but we tend to think of ourselves as a bridge. We bridge ourselves between the physical real world and the virtual world, and we bridge ourselves between the regulated world and the unregulated world. Because both will always exist. Since what we're seeing right now that's occurring with the technology is that we're just basically seeing, decentralized centralization. Like everyone's creating their own little ecosystem. They're all pretty much centralized. Look at EOS. 50% of the token is owned by 9 people. So, and they raised $4 billion, and they're sitting at, I don't know, multiple billions. So what we know for sure now, because of how the market seems with Flash, we should no longer feel that we're in this weird market. We should just focus on how all of us can create value for Flash, because the more value. And so some of the announcements that I've been working on recently is that for those of you who are from Vancouver, and for those of you that are familiar with the local, one of the largest growing exchanges and the biggest exchange here in Canada, Einstein Exchange. They're actually just a few blocks down the road. you can currently now go to Einstein.exchange and trade Flash there. You can purchase Flash directly with credit card and debit card right there from the website. Right. This is significant because there's only 2 companies in the world right now that is authorized by Visa and MasterCard to process cryptocurrency transactions. One is Coinbase and the other is Einstein. Yeah. And so if you think about, and they only have like, I mean, the only reason I got Flash on there because Michael's a great friend. We work very close with him. He's the CEO. I think he actually swung by yesterday here. I'm not sure he did. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. But what I'm excited about that because now, not just people in Canada, people from all over the world can go to Einstein and sign up for an account, very easy, and basically purchase Flash with a credit card and debit card right now. You can go there right now. It works. ATM, there's the Flash ATM already. The Bitcoin ATM already supports that. So for the first time, we actually have something that most of these other cryptocurrency do not have. You can, yes. So because I announced it here, you can actually go ahead and go live with it. I think people are going to be excited. And I think now we open the possibilities. What one of the strategies I thought that would be really good is all of us go start with the local merchants, start with the shops that you like. Tell them to go get an account at Einstein Exchange because at the end of the day, people currently they're paying Visa and MasterCard. They're paying these card processors. They have to use these terminals. It costs money, right? There's fees. So let's offer them an alternative. We're not telling them to change. We're not telling them to switch this completely. Just open up additional ways and see how it works. When I go to your shop and I spend $100 or $1, which by the way isn't possible with Bitcoin. You cannot spend $5 with Bitcoin because it's too expensive. And it's not easy to spend Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies right now. Any of these cryptocurrencies out there, it's not that easy to use. We have one of the most easy, and this is not me saying it. This is from a lot of people, the review that I've just out in the real world. People are saying this is the best wallet, hands down, they have used. Best. And it will get better because it's just the beginning. But what we can now see the possibility is anybody can go to the website, get a Flash wallet for free, begin accepting Flash, and if you just want to get paid $100, someone can send you $100 in Flash. You take that, you directly deposit into Einstein, convert it into USD, boom, hits your bank account. You now, what do we have now? We now have I want to call it completely decentralized, but it's almost like a decentralized merchant processing network. Because before that, we didn't have the ability to do that. We were trading on Cryptopia, and it's like small little exchange in New Zealand. But now we have one of the very very big exchange. And the next thing I'm planning to work on is to bring Flash to some of the more more popular exchanges, Binance, Bitfinex, things like that. But those things will take time and work. But meanwhile, getting this done was monumental because we now have, when I tell people, hey, go get some Flash, it's not just me whipping out my wallet and sending them money. It's telling them, hey, go to Einstein. By the way, Michael's happy because we can help him acquire new users. I mean, we're doing that with a lot of other projects. We're building new models for them to acquire users, so they're very happy with it. Yes, James. Yes, so I'm in the process of actually creating a specific landing page for Einstein so that we can link it to the homepage. When people go to Flash, it'll give them boom. They jump there. They can instantly just sign up for an account and get access. And we'll be able to keep track of all the referrals. So that's definitely in the works. So yeah, I think that's kind of the exciting news. And there are a lot of other cool stuff they're working. There are some stuff very big with Flash that I'm working with, but it's not yet defined completely. But I think you guys will really like it in the future. I think it's pretty amazing. No, but we're all here. We're all here to help each other as a community, right? Even though and hopefully one day we'll be sitting here and there's thousands of people. But this is the first one. Yeah. No, because I think at the end of the day, like, you know, and I'm actually from the beginning to now, I've done some market analysis, and I'm telling people, you know what? Now that I look at two things, how much we started with and where we're at now, and look at some of the other projects, how much they started with and where they're at now, it's night and day. Clearly, we're doing something right, or we've been doing something right, and we'll continue to do something right. So I think the future is going to be amazing. And think about it, like all these retail mom and pop clients now in Canada is going to go on Einstein. And did you know what the single biggest, highest volume purchased cryptocurrency asset on Einstein? It's not Bitcoin. It's actually Ripple with a credit card. Because most people, they go on, the first thing, they don't have they're not going to go to the bank and wire money. Their first taste is like credit card. Yeah, something cheap. So they're like, okay, I saw my credit card for $100, buy like, you know, a few Ripple. But now they see something there, it's like, ooh, this thing is at a couple pennies. What is this? Interesting. And they're going to test the wallet. They're going to see how it works. It's really just about showing. So I encourage everyone, if you don't have the mobile wallet on your phone already and don't have any coins in there, please get one and put some coins in there so that when you go talk to people, see, when I talk to people about cryptocurrency, I literally just say, go get a wallet, boom, done. And they see how it works. Then that's it. That's all you need to really do. That's how Bitcoin, you know, you can explain to people all day about the technicalities, but just show them how it works. And so many people, when you show them how it works, it's like, aha, that's it. They see how cheap, fast, and easy it is to use. That's simple. So I think we have something amazing. We have a great team. We have great community. We have great product. I mean, let's go and just tell people about it. That's all we got to do. And you will see the market cap rise. Market making, I'm actually talking with people to do the professional market making as well. There's just a lot of things that have to be put in place, but the biggest thing that we can do as a community is to raise awareness. How do you raise awareness? Just tell people about it. And if you know people in bigger companies and convince them to, you know, sort of just find it, like really you have to understand it yourself. Like see for yourself how easy it is to send Flash to someone, boom. See how easy it is to get it into USD on the exchange, which by the way is a global exchange. And Michael's got 15 years of payment processing background. He's went to law school, like he's a solid guy. So I think one of the things that we wanted to do actually is use Flash and really push into the merchant, getting merchant adoption. I think that's amazing because now because all these people have these wallets, they need utility and they need places to spend it rather than just sending it to their friends. So having more of a merchant network that we can sort of begin to build and scale, and having, you know, Einstein sort of function as the backbone, we can create something pretty amazing fairly fast, I think. So that's something we should all be thinking about. And just get your local shop to accept it. It's very easy. And it's like, the risk is actually very low. So pretty much again, that's pretty much the state of the market and token. So the two things I'm very excited right now, that's top of my priority list, is Flash and exchange coins. Moreover, Einstein coins, because Einstein is going to launch a coin, by the way. Yeah, and I'm the one writing the white paper, so if you're interested, you talk to me about the investment. But yeah, anyways, I guess we can have a little, maybe a few minutes for questions or anything random from the audience or Chris or anyone. Sort of been talking for a long time.
Anybody got questions? I think everybody's really excited about Einstein.
Yeah,
I mean,
Einstein, yes.
That's been in the works for a long time.
Yeah, it wasn't easy, but the thing is, Einstein, I think recently they were just at a New York consensus. They were one of the top sponsors there. They're just beginning to push, and what's amazing about the team is that I know I met the team. I might go to the office all the time. Everyone's friends there. Everybody in the office loves Flash. Everybody in the office is buying Flash. So it's a great environment, people, and they all really support the idea and they love it. And that's all you really have to do, is just get people to love Flash. and the rest will come, right? That's it.
Yeah, pretty much. So I wanted to do a quick recap. If there are no other questions, I just wanted to go over some things again, to cover some of the dev talk. You were not here for that. You know most of this anyway, but I think the key points are to make sure people are clear about how the swap bot works and the function within the wallet. So we have basically 3 different ways that you can use a wallet, one of our wallets, to trade. You can trade virtually, which is that I just call you on the phone and we trade back and forth. You can trade in person, and that's the human ATM. And that's go to the coffee shop, someone gives you a bag of coffee beans or money or whatever it is they want to give you, and you send them the flash right there. And this is a way for people to meet up, to find, to discover. You really have two sections to the trade. Discovery, where you find somebody, and settlement, where you close the deal. Okay? And then the third one is the swap bot, which is an automated way of doing virtual trading. So in other words, I can set my wallet up, this is what's going to be coming within the next 30 days, to set up an address, a flash address. You send the flash there, and I'll say, I'll give you this many Bitcoins, I'll give you at this price. I'm buying flash independently, just for my wallet. You'll be able to do that. And that basically turns your wallet into a vending machine that just runs all the time. You'll have controls to allow you to manage, how much, what the limit is of how much people can buy and all these other kind of things. And, it depends on where you are. There are legal limits. You have to follow all that. It's up to the person to figure out that. But I wanted to make sure that was clear. The next thing is the iOS and Android wallet. To recap, the iOS wallet was approved by Apple, and Flash as a coin, yeah, it's a big deal. Flash as a coin is approved by Apple, which is an amazing thing. So the hardware wallet, we're in the Trezor, the code's in Trezor. They're just waiting, we're waiting to pull it. It's been basically approved, but we're just waiting for them to pull it. And we're hoping that, I think there's going to be a list of like 500 different coins. Trezor is taking a different approach than Ledger. And they just realized that they can't scale for the number of coins that are out there and do it all themselves. So what they have to do is rely on the community. We happen to have a great community. So we had one of our developers, and literally he did it in 4 hours. That's it. That's the advantage of being Litecoin compatible. So you save a lot of time. We talked about exchanges. The exchanges that we've got Einstein, which we're super excited about because it's live now. And we also have a deal that I just signed this morning. Sean just brought it to me, and it's for Blockbid, which is an exchange in Australia that's going to be pairing Flash with, I think, up to 4 different fiat currencies. Yep, and Flash will be available as a pairing coin for any coin that they list, which is fantastic because what the exchanges all see is the problem with Bitcoin. The problem is moving it in and out. It's too slow. So to give you an example, I was on the phone with James the other day. He said, I just put some Bitcoin into Einstein Exchange. What did it take, James? 40 minutes? 35 minutes. You just put some Flash in. How long did that take? Minute and a half.
And to add to that, I'm working with the developers. Right now, we have the confirmation set for Einstein deposit for Flash at 6 confirms. Mm-hmm. Over time, as we test the stability, we will lower down to 1 confirm. So pretty much almost instantaneous funding. I'm in the process of just working with the devs, working very closely with them, and everyone really is happy with Flash. They're like, these are technical dudes, and they're not easy people to impress. They're like, wow. So yes, that was good.
Think about how awesome that is that you'll be able to buy Flash with your credit card on Einstein, and in a minute and a half, you can have it on Blockbit paired with any coin that they list. They're going to be listing hundreds of coins.
Yeah, and so when you purchase, I personally, I haven't done a purchase of a credit card experience on there yet, but if any of you have done that, please let me know how it goes. I may just go back and because they were showing me, I didn't do it myself yet, But I think it funds directly to your Einstein Flash wallet, and then you can make deposit and withdrawal. So it's
30 seconds. It took
wonderful.
less than 30 seconds to withdraw Flash off the
Amazing,
exchange.
amazing. And we're tweaking that. So I'm going to tweak it so that over time, as we stabilize, I'm trying to reach basically as soon as possible without affecting system stability, because there's a lot of that, and we do have to maintain the security of the exchange. But we over time we will go down as fast as we possible. But I think 30 seconds, a minute and a half, these are reasonable times for deposits and withdrawals. And so for now we'll keep at that, and then we'll just gradually work on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. And you look at the utility, Jason was talking about the utility of Flashcoin and the utility of these crypto coins. Utility drives value. That's the simple thing. And so the idea is the more utility, the faster things work. We knew early on that speed was an advantage that we had to have. We wanted to claim that ground and do it in a way that's legally compliant, because you can go too centralized and it's easy to hit a speed target. Ripple is basically a centralized coin, and it's going to be treated as a payment instrument. That means they're going to have to get money transmission licenses from each state in the U.S. That costs about $20 million and takes 2 to 3 years to get. So that's the path. I mean, they got billions of dollars sitting in their kitty. They own 55%. So they're clearly going to be one of these regulated kind of coins. Flash took a different path. We are outside of that system. We still support the system. We don't care if people want to spend dollars, Ripple, whatever. That's up to them. It's a choice. But we offer people another choice. That's the way to look at Flash. We're not against anybody, but we're just giving people a choice.
And as a closing joke, most of you are aware that recently we went through a rebranding of the Flash brand. So if you look at the logo with the black and gold, it's very synonymous with the Lamborghini logo.
That's why Jason liked it so much.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, Lambo.
But yeah. So and I also think in the Middle East market, the UAE market, for Flash, I haven't begun really pushing it by making plans to also do a lot of development there. So one interesting news, nothing certain, just kind of random discussion. Formula F1, November, the 10th anniversary happening in Abu Dhabi. The Weeknd is playing there. The company that is hosting all of the celebrity events in the UAE happen to be called Flash Entertainment. And they don't have a cryptocurrency,
well, we have one for them.
Yeah, and I'm trying to reach into, we know the management, so begin to set up meetings and things like that. So there's definitely a lot of things going on, and a lot of times I feel like, sometimes I, could definitely share more, but it's like a lot of times things are work in progress, but just kind of know there's definitely, I see the future for Flash. It's not just going to be technology, it's going to be something much bigger than that. It's going to be a brand. I think that
one other point is that we generally do not release anything until it's done. So this Einstein exchange is exactly the example. It's working. It's now been approved by them, and they are now we can talk about it. So this has been in the works for 3-4 months, maybe more.
Yeah. Because and I remember when people were like, "Oh, it's not going to happen." It's like sometimes these things, discussion about exchanges, it's a little touchy topic. But definitely, I think if the goal here for everyone is to do the best that we can, and to, we're not here to promise, XYZ amount, everyone's going to get rich buying this coin. It's just about, hey, let's all believe in this vision and let's move forward with it and see where we go. No one knows the future, right? But let's just do it with the best of our hearts and give our passion and see where it goes. But I have good feelings.
And if we do a good job with everything is executed, the price takes care of itself. And it's going to be whatever it is. So people come and ask me, what's the price going to be? I'm like, I don't know.
Well, if you look at the coin market cap, it's $10 million right now, right? And if you look at, it's actually, I think even just from the global demand, a couple $1 million of buy demand, the price would be, insane because, yeah. Well, that's why I begin to some of the investors. I don't really talk about. See, sometimes I have to be very careful because I'm representing a financial firm, and then I gotta can't show your own coins. So if other people tend to ask, "What are you interested in?" I would tell them what I'm interested in.
Well, you can talk your own book. You can't, promote something. You
But the
can't be a
funny thing,
promoter.
Chris, is that most of these people are so used to people just begging them for money. They're like, it's like, why is this guy not asking me for money? It's weird.
Yeah, what's
But-
wrong with them?
So, but no, we just believe in really telling people about the value, and they make their own decisions, right? Because at the end of the day, if someone we just say what I'm buying, what I'm doing, and if people want, if they want to do anything, that's their own individual choice. I'm not here to really tell them to buy or sell or do anything. Just education, yes, that's the key.
That's it. I don't really have anything else to add. Any other questions, anybody? James?
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer, this does not constitute an offer to sell or buy securities. You can only do that with a prospectus. We are not a security. Does that cover it? Okay. We're not telling people to buy or sell coins or do anything like that. We're here to have fun.
Well, thank you guys. Again, I think this is the first FlashCon 2018, and I think it's been very successful, and we definitely had a lot of amazing discussions. So let's look forward towards next year. And where are we going to host it next year, Chris?
I don't know. I think it's got to be in
well.
Canada somewhere because this is a Canadian coin, right? So maybe Toronto or I don't know, maybe Vancouver again. People in Vancouver have been very nice to us.
Yep, definitely. Well, thank you all for being here, and have a wonderful afternoon and good weekend.
Thanks for all your help, Jason, and thank
You're
you
welcome. Thank
to
you,
Binary
Chris.
Financial for the sponsorship.